All right. So I hope you guys are ready for this article. Like I said this yesterday. It is dense, but I think it's important that we go through it. So I hope you guys got your coffee. Do you guys got your coffee? I got my coffee. You guys got your coffee. So let's grab our coffee, I'm saying, and let's start going over this. I want to thank Aaron for becoming a member, which reminds me that you can also become a member on my Ko-Fi, which I have in my link, which would be awesome, and be a monthly member. Or you can also become a monthly member now on YouTube. They just gave me the ability to add membership. So if you want to become a member on either Ko-Fi and or YouTube, you can do both. And you can also send me super chats here or stickers or super thanks, which obviously help me continue to do what I'm doing. So let's go. All right. This is the article. Let me try to move it a little over so that I can still see you guys. Because I've told you guys before that I don't have multiple monitors like a lot of streamers do yet. But so I have to move the screen around so that I can see the article that I'm reading or the video, but also still see still see chat. Mohammed wrote, the Israelis don't look at the Palestinians as human beings. Yeah, they don't. It's the only thing you can come up with. Is it better for us to use YouTube or Ko-Fi? You're right. That's a good question, oh Boney Bird. If I had to guess, I put YouTube on there just because I think that YouTube is more convenient for people. But you make a good point. If YouTube comes after me for any reason, Ko-Fi might be better because it's totally unaffiliated. So I put both. So if someone finds it easier to become a member on YouTube because you can just click YouTube and you don't have to go out of the website. But Ko-Fi, I think, is probably good in that. The reason why I started a Ko-Fi in the first place was because I wanted to insulate myself in case something like that happens. Because I've had my content taken down from multiple platforms. I've been attacked. So in order to insulate myself, that is why I made the Ko-Fi. Sal, love and respect for all your efforts. Thank you. Thank you, Sal. I appreciate you. Thank you for the super chat. Let me pull this back up. All right, let's get into these monsters who, as somebody pointed out earlier in chat, absolutely don't see the Palestinians as people, because if they did, they wouldn't treat them as though they're not. You don't treat human beings like that if you think of them as being as equal as you. So this is from The Guardian, and as you can see, it's from May 28th. And as I mentioned, I missed it when it first came out, which is crazy. Exclusive investigation reveals how intelligence agencies tried to derail war crimes prosecution with Netanyahu obsessed with intercepts. Woo! Chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court announced he was seeking an arrest warrant against Israeli and Hamas leaders. He issued a cryptic warning. I insist that all attempts to impede, intimidate, or improperly influence the officials of this court must cease immediately. Karim Khan, which I think you guys say Khan, but I don't want to say that because I feel like that's the way the Israelis say Hamas. So I'm just going to say it in American or whatever. Karim Khan did not provide a specific detail of attempts to interfere with the ICC's work, but he noted a clause in the court's foundational treaty that made any such interference a criminal offense. If the conduct continued, he added, my office will not hesitate to act. But he had to set out, you know what I mean, and say that and be like, hey, by the way, war criminals, if you try to do your war criminaling, then we might have to act, you know, embarrassing. Okay, guys, this is so crazy. It's just so crazy. Okay, we're moving forward. Okay. An investigation by The Guardian in the Israeli-based magazine 972 local call can reveal how Israel has run an almost decade-long secret war against the court. Can we pause there for effect? Just pause there for effect. How insane is that? That's insane. A decades-long secret war against the ICC. That's just so crazy. It's so crazy. If anybody is seeing this and thinks that it's not crazy, just try to imagine any other country doing that. Imagine if China got caught doing that. We're always fear-mongering and war-mongering over China. Oh, China, Russia. Imagine if Putin got caught doing that, right? How crazy is that? That's why it's ridiculous that this story is not even bigger, like as it should be bigger. I could not find your name. Wait, how do you say your name? Kabulajan? Yeah, but really, yeah, China. Yeah, almost like it's a war on the rule of law. And that's the thing that's so funny about it is when they're all, we're for the rule of law, these third world countries. We believe in international law and the rule of law and the international order. But then, is literally out here spying and doing a war on the International Criminal Court, and it's like booze. Absalom Jobs, thank you for the super chat. I so appreciate you. Don't know why I'm blocked, but good work on the stream. Blocked? You're on here. I see you. What do you mean you're blocked? It's almost like they were up to no good. Vanessa, true. Yes. It's just so insane. No other country would get away with this, but their international protection racket. Young war in the court. The country deployed its intelligence agencies to surveil, hack, pressure, smear, and allegedly threaten senior ICC staff in an effort to derail the court's inquiries. I feel like I can't stop for every single paragraph, but it's so insane, it's hard not to. I can't literally stop for effect at every single paragraph, but it's kind of hard not to because this is so crazy. And if they're doing this to the ICC, which is an internationally recognized body, an international court that's supposed to be upholding the rule of law and protecting justice, what do you think they're doing to the people in Gaza? What do you think they're doing to the Palestinians in the occupied West Bank when they know they have no consequences? If they're this brazen with the court, how much more brazen do you think that they are with the Palestinians? It's way worse than we think. Rules are Israel's intelligence captured the communications of numerous ICC officials, including Khan and his predecessor, a prosecutor, Fatou Bensouda, intercepting phone calls, messages, emails, and documents. The surveillance was ongoing in recent months, providing Israel's Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, with advanced knowledge of the prosecutor's intentions. A recent intercepted communication suggested that Khan wanted to issue the arrest warrants against Israelis, but was under tremendous pressure from the United States, according to a source familiar with its contents. Vanessa, you're right. You do just have to laugh to keep from crying. It's so enraging because it's so unfair. It's so unfair. No one else would get away with this. And that right there, that line right there, because the U.S. is protecting them, because they're war criminaling all over the globe, okay? They're like a bouncing ball all over the globe, war criminaling. And if anyone else did that, they would be raked over the coals. They would be an international pariah. They would be being told that they need to go to The Hague, but the Israeli regime does it and nothing happens because America always steps in to protect them. As they just said, it is a crime to be spying on the International Criminal Court. It is a crime to spy on the leaders and the prosecutors at the ICC. It is a crime to be spying on them. And for Netanyahu to know, Netanyahu knew. Netanyahu was given advance information. Netanyahu knew what they were going to do and was given advance information about these, which is a crime. It is a crime. But did he get in trouble? No, of course not. And the reason why that none of this is really mattering to anybody or they're not getting in trouble is because, as of course, the United States is protecting them because we're their mafia. Yeah, Biden said he doesn't respect ICC, even though he was cheering the ICC when he thought that they were going to put out an arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin. Right, Mohammed, that's because animal rights activists are anti-Semitic. Caring about animals, anti-Semitic. Goat tea, that is also true. And videos about that before too, about how the Israeli regime will any male because every male is Hamas, including 10-year-old boys. Yeah. Kareem Khan was told by Western leaders that the ICC is made for Africa and thugs like Putin. That's, yeah. That, if it mattered to the West, if international law does not apply to everyone, then it applies to no one. We should just get rid of it. Okay? We should just get rid of it because honestly, I don't know about you guys, but I'm tired of this facade. I'm tired of the charade. If it's not going to apply, basically countries like China or countries in Asia or Africa, and basically the only like white country is Russia, you know, communism and Russia, communism, Red Scare, then it doesn't apply. It doesn't apply at all. It's a joke. It's a farce. Like, can we just do this charade and stop pretending? Stop pretending that we rule of law and all that. Let's stop pretending that Israel isn't controlling this country. I'm so tired of it. It's just insane. A fetus in the womb is Vanessa, for real though. For real though. That's what they say. Even though they're pro-life. They're all pro-life. And then they don't care about women in Gaza, pregnant women in Gaza, children in Gaza, babies in incubators in Gaza, but they're pro-life. I hope we've dispensed with that lie too, right? That like the pro-lifers actually count abortion or life. I mean, we should begin the charade. Bensouda, who was a chief prosecutor, opened the ICC's investigation in 2021, paving the way for last week's announcement, was also spied on and allegedly threatened. Patriotic fervor, you're right. It's pro-life when they're white kids. Netanyahu has taken a close interest in the intelligence operations against the ICC. Oh, and you'll also notice that like right-wingers who pretend to care about the FBI and big government and spying and stuff, neither of them care about this either. It's just such a fraud. Okay. Was described as being obsessed with the intercepts, overseen by his national security advisors, the efforts involved on the domestic spy agency, the Shin Bet, as well as the military intelligence directorate, Amman, the Cyber Division Unit 8200. Intelligence gleaned from the intercepts was, sources said, disseminated to government ministries of justice, foreign affairs, and strategic affairs. A covert operation against Bensouda, revealed on Tuesday by The Guardian, was run personally by Netanyahu's close ally, Yossi Cohen. Wait a second. Oh, that just threw me for a second. I actually used to know someone named Yossi Cohen, who was Israeli. But he lived in New York and like, I don't think had anything to do with it. It just threw me because I haven't heard that name in a long time. Okay. But pause there too for a second, how insane that is. A covert operation against Bensouda, who was the lead prosecutor at the ICC, was run personally by Netanyahu's close ally. Insane. Insane. Why is this not a crime? Rule of law, people. Biden, John Kirby, all you rule of law folks. Why isn't this a crime? Sounds like a crime, looks like a crime, feels like a crime. Who was at the time the director of Israel's foreign intelligence agency, the Mossad. At one stage, the spy chief even enlisted the help of then president of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Joseph Kabila. Why? Why was he getting help from the leader of Congo? Maybe somebody who knows more about Congolese politics might have the answer to that. Their domestic politics. Crimes are anti-Semitic. Yeah, and crimes are for the poors. Okay? Crimes are for the poors. Don't get held accountable for war crimes if you're rich. Even if, I don't think Bensouda was from Congo. I think she's from Bensouda. I don't think she's from Congo. In office. She's from Gambia. Yeah, she's from Gambia. All right. Wait, why don't you do that? Okay. Oh yeah, I'm moving it down so I can see you guys. Okay. It's just so crazy. There's no security. A covert operation. Joseph Kabila. Well, somebody remind me after we're done reading this, to look into Joseph Kabila, who he is and why he was involved with this. Details of Israel's 9-year campaign to thwart the ICC's inquiry may have been uncovered by The Guardian, an Israeli-Palestinian publication, 972 magazine, and Local Call, a Hebrew language outlet. The joint investigation draws on interviews. Wait, is The Guardian run by an Israeli-Palestinian? Who runs The Guardian? Wait a second. That doesn't sound right. Or maybe, okay, whatever. We'll look at that later. Yeah, that's what I thought too. I thought it was in English. Okay. Oh my gosh. I'm an idiot, you guys. They were saying 972 is the Israeli-Palestinian publication, not The Guardian. Doing. Okay. Local call Hebrew language outlet. The joint investigation draws on interviews with more than 24 current and former Israeli intelligence officers and government officials, senior ICC figures, diplomats, lawyers familiar with the ICC and Israeli efforts to undermine. Contacted by The Guardian, a spokesperson for the ICC said it was unaware of proactive intelligence gathering activities being undertaken by a number of national agencies hostile toward the court. They said the ICC was continually implementing countermeasures against such activity and that none of the recent attacks against it by national intelligence agencies had penetrated the court's core evidence holding, which had remained secure. I don't know what you mean by hit the like button, but I forgot. Yeah, you can hit the like button on the stream and share the stream. Hey, Thorpe TV. I just wanted to pause to say thank you to Iz for the super sticker. I appreciate it. Okay. A spokesperson for Israel's prime minister said, and by whenever they say a spokesperson for the Israeli foreign minister, they mean a liar, a paid liar, because all they do is lie. All they know how to do is lie. So a spokesliar for the Israeli regime's office said, the question forwarded to us are replete with many false and unfounded allegations meant to hurt the state of Israel. Shut up. Shut up. I'm so tired of those liars. Everything they say is a lie. Oh, thank you, Thorpe. Thorpe, can you, yeah, all they do is lie. Thorpe, can you write me an email? Can you send me an email with the details and like when you want to? Okay. So the Israelis already read lie. Since it was established in 2002, the ICC has served as a permanent court of the last resort for the prosecution and individuals accused of some of the world's worst atrocities. Do you see what this is? So like that is the whole point of the ICC. The whole point of the ICC is specifically to hold the world's worst people accountable for the world's worst atrocities. And if Netanyahu and the lunatics in his cabinet are not held accountable for their war crimes, then they literally, there is no purpose for them. There is no purpose for them. The ICC is there for exactly things like this. The ICC is there for precisely things like what's happening in Gaza, for the genocide in Gaza. That is exactly what it's for. Oh, happy Thursday to you too, Ruben. I'm putting my email in. There you go. You can email me if you want me on your show, if you want me to come on your show, or if you want me, you know, all that. And also, just find a good producer, a good music producer, send them my way. Okay, anyway. Cohen and Kabila together for Glencore, which extracts cobalt, which is causing crisis. Oh, Nessa. So they were working together to basically exploit minerals from Congo. It's a common practice of oligarchs, plutocrats, and corporations. But apparently they had more than something in common. So they were doing they were working together, extracting cobalt from Congo, but also working together to spy on the ICC. So they're like besties. Like they're like, hey man, like work together to steal Congo, but also like let's work together to spy on ICC. Besties. Okay. So it has charged the Sudanese president, Omar al-Bashir, the late Libyan president, Muammar Gaddafi, and most recently, the Russian president, Vladimir Putin. Okay. So, again, ICC was to be for the literal world's worst war criminals. And if they can't go after Netanyahu and his other, like, demon officials in his, why are you here? That's literally, Netanyahu is literally what the ICC was made for. All right, guys, getting that coffee on. Hope you guys are getting your coffee on. Oh, yeah, that's true too, Garam. We don't talk about that a lot. What is happening in Azerbaijan and Turkey, and not just what happened with the Armenian genocide, but also like what they continue to do. I wish I understood French. Sources scores, you know it. Okay. Khan's decision to see, and you'll notice too, as it was mentioned earlier in chat, that they don't go after any Western war criminals. They only go after ones in Africa. I'm sure they would in China if they could, and Putin. Putin is the one white European exception. And the reason for that is because hashtag Red Scare, hashtag communism, hashtag Soviet Union. Constitutional decision to seek warrants against Netanyahu and his defense minister, Yoav Gallant, along with Hamas leaders implicated in the October 7th attack, marks the first time that the ICC prosecutor has sought arrest warrants against the leader of a close Western ally. And that's the answer. That's the answer. It's happening because it is the first time that they've actually sought an arrest warrant against a Western allied country. The allegation of war crimes and crimes against humanity that Khan has leveled against Netanyahu and Gallant all relate to Israel's 8-month war in Gaza, genocide in Gaza, which according to the territory's health authority has killed more than 35,000 people. Okay. This is the kind of loaded that I hate that they write in. War on Gaza, it's not a war, it's a genocide. We all know that, which according to the territory's health authority, they try to like slide that in there to discredit it. Like instead of saying it like it's a fact, when it's a fact, the UN has already confirmed it's a fact. They go, well, according to the territory's health, I'm surprised they didn't say the Hamas-run health ministry. I'm surprised they didn't do that. It's killed more than 35,000 people, which, by the way, it is way more than that. It is way more than that. Okay? It was 35,000 people like 3 months ago. Like, did it just stop? Counting just stopped. And the reason why the counting stopped is because they've killed everybody that could count. They've killed all the journalists. They've killed all the doctors. I thought Russia was a capitalist country. It's more of like a oligarchy, a plutocracy. But then again, so is the United States, you know what I'm saying? But the ICC case has been a decades long in the making, inching toward amid rising alarm among Israeli officials at the possibility of arrest warrants, which would prevent those accused from traveling to any of the court's 124 member states for fear of arrest. Oh, how base would that be? How base would that be if Netanyahu went to I don't know, America? Not we would, and he got arrested. It is the specter of the prosecutions in The Hague, one former Israeli intelligence official said, that led to the entire military and political establishment to regard the counteroffensive against the ICC as a war that had to be waged and one that Israel needed to be defended against. It was described in military terms. The war commenced in January 2015, when it was confirmed that Palestine would join the court after it was recognized as a state by the UN General Assembly. Its secession was condemned by Israeli officials as a form of diplomatic terrorism. Oh my gosh, that is so embarrassing. They literally call everything Hamas. They literally call everything terrorism. They literally call everything Hamas. They literally call everything terror, including the ICC and the UN. The UN is Hamas. The ICC is Hamas. Recognizing the state of Israel is terrorism. I mean, a state of Israel. Actually, that is. Recognizing the Palestine is diplomatic terror. Okay. Diplomatic terrorism is not a thing. That's not a thing. Terrorism literally means to terrorize. How can terrorism be diplomatic? That makes no sense. How can terrorism be diplomatic? Okay. It doesn't need to make sense. These people are clowns. Diplomatic terrorism. Oh my gosh. One former defense official familiar with Israel's counter ICC effort said joining the court had been perceived as crossing of a red line and perhaps the most aggressive diplomatic move taken by the Palestinian Authority, which governs the West Bank. To be recognized as a state in the UN is nice, they added, but the ICC is a mechanism with teeth. It's just so embarrassing and ridiculous. Patriotic fervor recognizing Palestine and anti-Semitic. Okay, but they literally say that. In fact, even more absurd, saying recognizing Palestine is terrorism, diplomatic terrorism, which again, diplomatic terrorism makes no sense. That's not a thing. But also to say that recognizing it as terrorism is basically saying that every single Palestinian, by virtue of their existence, is a terrorist. For Fatou Bensouda, a respected Gambian lawyer who was elected the ICC chief prosecutor in 2012, the accession of the Palestine to the court brought with it a momentous decision. Under the Rome Statute, the treaty that established the court, the ICC can exercise its jurisdiction only over crimes within member states or by nationals of those states, which is another reason why they don't want to recognize Palestine, because they don't want to recognize the crimes that Israel has committed against the Palestinians. Israel, like the US, Russia, and China, is not a member. After Palestine's acceptance as an ICC member, any alleged war crimes committed by those of any nationality in occupied Palestinian territory now fell under Bensouda's jurisdiction, exactly, which they didn't want. On January 16, 2015, within weeks of Palestine joining, Bensouda opened a preliminary examination into what in the legalese of the court was called the situation in Palestine. The following month, two men who had managed to obtain the prosecutor's private address turned up at her home in The Hague. That's insane. That's insane. What is this, the mob? It'd be a shame if something happened to you. Like, for real? Like, seriously, is this the mob? This is just so crazy. Her house. They went to her house. How is that not terrorism? If we're going to call something diplomatic terrorism, it would be that, if that made any sense. Sources familiar with the incident said that the men declined to identify themselves when they arrived, but said that they wanted to hand deliver a letter to Bensouda on behalf of an unknown German woman who wanted to thank her. The envelope contained hundreds of dollars in cash and a note with an Israeli phone number. Bro, literal mob shit. Sources with knowledge of the ICC review into the incident said that while it was not possible to identify the men or fully establish their motives, it was concluded that Israel was likely to be signaling to the prosecutor that it knew where she lived. Literally, it's a shame if something happened to you vibes. Like it's literally like, well, it's a shame something happened to you. Like, that's crazy. The ICC reported the incident to the Dutch authorities and put in place additional security, installing CCTV cameras at her home. The ICC's preliminary inquiry into the Palestinian territories was one of several such fact-finding exercises that the court was undertaking at the time as a prosecutor to a possible full precursor to a possible full investigation. Bensouda's caseload also included 9 full investigations, including into events in the DRC, Kenya, and the Darfur region of Sudan. Officials in the prosecutor's office believed that the court was vulnerable to espionage activity and introduced counter-surveillance measures to protect their confidential inquiries. In Israel, the Prime Minister's National Security Council, NSC, had mobilized a response involving its intelligence agencies. Netanyahu and some of the generals and spy chiefs who authorized an operation had a personal stake in its outcome. Unlike the International Court of Justice, the ICJ, a UN body that deals with legal responsibility of nation states, the ICC is a criminal court that prosecutes individuals targeting those deemed most responsible for atrocities. Exactly. And of course, that's why Netanyahu was trying to, derail it, because he knows he's a war criminal. He knows he's a criminal. What do you think would happen to Netanyahu if he didn't have the protection of the United States? Yeah, Goatee, that's the unfortunate and really frustrating thing, is that Israel would have nothing if it weren't for the protection of the United States. If we stop backing them, if we stop giving them cover diplomatically, if we stop giving them all of our money and weapons, and if we stopped being their bodyguard and shield for every war crime that they commit against the Palestinians, they would be so donezo. 2 intelligence officials involved in procuring intercepts about the ICC said that the Prime Minister's office took a keen interest in their work. Netanyahu's office, once said, would send areas of interest and instructions. This is so mob. Oh my gosh. In relation to the monitoring of the court officials. Another described the Prime Minister as obsessed with intercepts, shedding light on the activities of the ICC. Hacked emails and monitored calls. 5 sources familiar with the Israeli intelligence activity said that it routinely spied on the phone calls made by Bensouda and her staff with Palestinians. Blocked by Israel, From accessing Gaza and the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, the ICC was forced to conduct much of its research by telephone, which made it more susceptible to surveillance. Thanks to their comprehensive access to the Palestinian telecoms infrastructure, the sources said that intelligence operatives could capture the calls without installing spyware on the ICC's official devices. And what they mean by that is because the Palestinians don't have any autonomy, just because the fact that the Palestinians are occupied and they don't have freedom and the ability to have their own infrastructure, the Israeli regime didn't even have to break into the ICC's official devices because they can just spy on the Palestinians. Yeah, exactly, Mohammed. If Fatou Bensouda spoke to any person in the West Bank or Gaza, then that file would enter intercept systems, one source said. Another who said that there was no hesitation internally over spying on the prosecutor, adding, with Bensouda, she's Black and African, so who cares? I'm going to read that again. It's so insane. One source said. Another said there was no hesitation internally over spying on the prosecutor because she's Black and African, so who cares? It's just so disgusting. It really is so disgusting. They have it's just all, why do we care? Because she's not in the West and she's not white and she can't protect us and she can't work with us or be bribed by us. And she's Black and African, so who cares? They have absolutely no respect for people. They have absolutely no respect for this prosecutor. They have no respect for the rule of law. Also, I know they're insane racist. For someone who's constantly trying to be victimize themselves, for people who are constantly trying to make themselves victims, they're so racist. And honestly, they don't have respect for anybody. They don't have respect for Americans either. You see the way they slap Biden around and humiliate the State Department and the American government constantly. They have no respect for them either. The only reason why they're not more disrespectful to the U.S. is because we give them all that backing and diplomatic cover and money. But Netanyahu has made it really clear multiple times that he has zero respect for the United States, respect for Biden, and will slap us around whenever he feels like it. The surveillance system did not capture calls between the ICC officials and anyone outside of Palestine. However, multiple sources said that the systems required the active selection of the overseas phone numbers of the ICC, whose calls Israeli intelligence agencies decided to listen to. According to one Israeli source, a large whiteboard of an Israeli intelligence department contained the names of about 60 people under surveillance, half of them Palestinians, half from other countries, including UN officials and ICC personnel. In The Hague, Bensouda and her senior staff were alerted by security advisors via diplomatic channels that Israel was monitoring their work. A former senior ICC official recalled, "We were made aware that they were trying to get information on where we were with the preliminary investigation." Officials also became aware of a specific threat against a prominent Palestinian NGO, Al-Haq, which was one of several Palestinian human rights groups that frequently submitted information to the ICC inquiry, often in lengthy documents, including detailing incidents it wanted the prosecutors to consider. The Palestinian Authority submitted similar dossiers. Such documents often contain sensitive information such as testimony from potential witnesses. Al-Haq's submissions were also understood to have linked specific allegations of Rome Statute crimes to senior officials, including chiefs of the IDF, IOF, directors of Shin Bet, and defense ministers such as Benny Gantz. So basically, they'll continue. So basically what happens is Israel commits war crimes, and then human rights groups or international aid organizations like UNRWA or Al-Haq will submit reports about said crimes, and then Israel will call those international bodies and human rights groups and aid organizations Hamas. And then around and around we go. Years later, after the ICC had opened a full investigation into the Palestine case, Gantz designated Al-Haq and 5 of... How is this real? How is this real? Years later, after the ICC had opened a full investigation into the Palestine case, Gantz designated Al-Haq and 5 other Palestinian human rights groups terrorist organizations. Oh my gosh, literally everything. All they have to do is say that they're terrorists. No more explanation needed. No more information needed. All you have to do is say they're terrorists and they're Hamas, and then you can get away with anything. When are we going to learn? The thing that pisses me off the most is that the Western media still propagates this nonsense. You fools in the Western media repeated the lies and the propaganda about UNRWA over and over and over again until UNRWA was defunded. Over and over and over again until UNRWA was defunded. And now Palestinians are starving. When it's the same shit that they always do. It is the same shit that they always do. All they do is go, UNRWA's Hamas. Al-Haq is Hamas. It's anti-Semitic. It's a terrorist organization. And then they get defunded and they get harmed. And then the stupid ass, corrupt propaganda, mainstream media in our country goes out and repeats it. Years later, after the ICC, I already read that, a label that was rejected by multiple European states and later found by the CIA to be unsupported by evidence. Would you look at that? Guys, are you shocked? Are you shocked? Are you shocked that it turned out that they later found out that, of course, there was no evidence for it, that they just call everything anything, Hamas, terrorism, and anti-Semitic, and it turns out they had zilch evidence for that? But this is why, again, I hate our media so much. I despise corporate and mainstream media in the West because they should have known that when they came out with their claims about UNRWA and debunked it immediately and said, yeah, but you know what? The Israeli regime has a history of accusing human rights groups of doing this. We need evidence, but none of them did. They just heard the story and they ran with it. The organization said that the designations were a targeted assault against those most actively engaged with the ICC. According to multiple current former intelligence officials, military cyber offensive teams in the Shin Bet both systematically monitored the employees of the Palestinian NGOs and the Palestinian Authority who were engaging with the ICC. Two intelligence sources described how the Israeli operatives hacked into the emails of Al-Haq and other groups communicating with Bensouda's office. One of the sources said that Shin Bet even installed Pegasus spyware developed by the private sector NSO group on the phones of multiple Palestinian NGOs employees, as well as senior Palestinian Authority officials. First of all, again, how the f is this not illegal? How the f is this not illegal? Like, what is happening? This should be so illegal. Like, you like, how are you not in jail? I don't understand. And then, like, it's just like there's some them, but they're spying on them because they want to see the crimes they're going to report about the Israeli regime. You notice that? Not once were any of these Israelis claiming that they were doing that because they thought they were going to find a terrorist. None of them were spying because they thought they were going to monitor Hamas. They were doing it because they wanted to know what the ICC knew about their war crimes. They would know what the ICC knew about their crimes against the Palestinians. Keeping tabs on Palestinian submissions to the ICC inquiry was viewed as part of Shin Bet's mandate, but some army officials were concerned that spying on a foreign civilian entity crossed a line, as had little to do with military operations. It has nothing to do with Hamas. It has nothing to do with the stability in the West Bank, one military source said of the ICC surveillance. Another added, we used our resources to spy on Fatou Bensouda. This isn't something legitimate to do as military intelligence, which is basically what I just said. They're not even claiming that this had to do with watching for Hamas or some military objective. They literally are like, no, we're using resources to spy on this civilian entity, okay? Civilian entity, which again should be illegal, but we're doing it not because we fear that there's anything going on between the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank or Hamas. No. We're doing it because we want to see what the NGOs and civilian, humanitarian groups are reporting about our war crimes. Like, insane. Secret meeting with ICC, legitimate or otherwise. Legitimate or otherwise, we know it wasn't legitimate. What do you mean legitimate or otherwise? or otherwise. The surveillance of the ICC and Palestinians making the case for the prosecutions against Israelis provided the Israeli government with an advantage in a secret back channel it had opened with the prosecutor's office. Israel's meeting with the ICC were highly sensitive. If made public, they had the potential to undermine the government's official position that it did not recognize the court's authority. Also, we should say, who cares if they don't recognize the court's authority? Who cares? You're the ones always crying, saying Israel has a right to exist. We have a right to exist. Israel has a right to exist. So who cares if you don't recognize the court's authority? Well, we don't recognize you. According to 6 sources familiar with the meetings, they considered of a delegation of top government lawyers and diplomats who traveled to The Hague. 2 sources said the meetings were authorized by Netanyahu. The Israeli delegation was drawn from the Justice Ministry, Foreign Ministry, and Military Advocate General's office. The meeting took place between 2017 and 2019 and were led by the prominent Israeli lawyer and diplomat Tal Becker. In the beginning, it was tense, recalled a former ICC official. We would get into details of specific incidents. We'd say we're receiving allegations about these attacks, these killings, and they would provide us with information. A person with direct knowledge of Israel's preparation for the back channel meeting said officials in the Justice Ministry were furnished with intelligence that had been gleaned from Israel's surveillance intercepts before the delegations arrived at The Hague. The lawyer who dealt with the issues at the Justice Ministry had a big thirst for intelligence information, they said. Okay. For the Israelis, the back channel meetings, while sensitive, presented a new unique opportunity to directly present legal arguments challenging the jurisdiction over the Palestinian territories. Of course, you would say that. Yeah, exactly. They also sought to convince the prosecutors that despite the Israeli military's highly questionable record of investigating wrongdoing on its ranks, yeah, seriously, it's a serious joke when the Israeli regime goes, we're looking into it ourselves. Yeah, we're investigating ourselves, guys. Yeah, we're doing the investigation. We're looking into it. Highly questionable record of investigating wrongdoings in its ranks. It had procedures for holding its armed forces to account. This was a critical issue for Israel. A core ICC principle known as prosecutor from investigating or trying individuals if they are the subject of credible state-level investigations or criminal proceedings. Israeli surveillance operatives were asked to find out which specific incidents might form part of a future ICC prosecution. Multiple sources said in order to enable the Israeli investigative bodies to open investigations retroactively in some cases. If materials were transferred to the ICC, then we had to understand exactly what they were to ensure that the IOF investigated them independently and sufficiently so that they could claim complementarity. Wow, they're such gaslighters. Way to try to turn it around. Israel's back channel meeting with the ICC ended in December 2019 when Bensouda, announcing the end of her preliminary examination, said that she believed there was reasonable basis to conclude that Israel and Palestinian armed groups had both committed war crimes in occupied territories. So you basically just both sides did? Really? That was it? Gotcha. Because that's what she's saying. I completed my preliminary investigation and found that both sides should apologize. Because what does Hamas have to do with this? Literally nothing. It was a significant setback for Israelis leaders, although it could have been worse, in a move that some in the government regarded as a partial vindication of Israel's lobbying efforts. Bensouda stopped short of launching a formal investigation. Okay. So I guess I spoke too soon when I gave her credit. I'm taking back your queen status, okay? No credit anymore. Yeah, exactly, old bony bird. Both are old bony birds. Both are guilty, so neither are guilty. It's both sides is And basically, in my lead up, my video I was making prepping for this, I was, oh, she's awesome because she didn't back down their pressure. Sorry that I spoke too soon because I hadn't gotten through the whole article yet. She did bow to their pressure. Now, look, I understand that it's very scary being attacked like that by this regime, but at the same time, she basically did exactly what they wanted. She both sides did, and then she didn't want a formal investigation, which she should have. Wow. Instead, she announced that she would ask a panel of ICC judges to rule on the contentious question of the court's jurisdiction over the Palestinian territories. So she kicked the ball down the road. She kicked the can due to the unique and highly contested legal and factual issues. Okay, that's just a bunch of yada, 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 yada bullshit. Basically, what really happened was they obviously spied. They threatened her. Then they created back channels in which they put even more pressure and intimidation on the officials and got her to basically call it a wash. Yeah, old Boney Bird, you're right. That's exactly what they're doing. When they say they're seeking arrest warrants for Netanyahu, but also leaders, this is the both sides and the whataboutism and the, I guess we'll just have to wash our hands of it because both sides. Bensouda had made clear that he was minded to open a full investigation if the judges gave her the green light. It was against this backdrop that Israel ramped up its campaign against the ICC and turned to its top spy chief to turn up the heat on Bensouda personally. That's just so crazy. The lobbying of these people is amazing. Like the amount of money that these people put into lobbying is incredible. And when you think about it, that's exactly why we're seeing insanity that we're seeing in Congress. Yeah, because they own our Congress. Full stop. Cohen's contacts with Bensouda, which were described to The Guardian by 4 people familiar with prosecutors' contemporaneous accounts of the interaction, as well as sources briefed on the Mossad operation, had begun several years earlier. In one of the earliest encounters, Cohen surprised Bensouda when he made an unexpected appearance at the official meeting of the prosecutors was holding with the DRC president, Joseph Kabila, in a New York hotel suite. That's literally mafia shit. So this Mossad guy shows up at this hotel at this at a totally unrelated event and is like, "Hi, Bensouda. I'm just here hanging out in my trench coat and my 1930s hat. Just hanging out, nothing to see here. I'm just hanging out." After the incident in New York, Cohen persisted in contacting the prosecutor, turning up unannounced and unwanted calls. While initially amicable, the source said Cohen's behavior became increasingly threatening and intimidating. It's like Michael Cohen. Wait, no, I agree with Khan. Yeah, I'm not saying that no one should be charged with war crimes for October 7th. Like, really want what I think was one of the biggest crimes of October 7th was that Hamas shot a dog. Okay, they Christy gnomed a dog. That actually was one of the most upsetting things I saw. Honestly, and I don't mean that trying to diminish the death of human beings, but I don't know about you guys, but there's something of being an animal specific, especially a dog, but an animal in general, getting killed that really just hard for me to handle. And I did see the video of when the Hamas militants were going into one of the kibbutzes and there is a dog barking and they first hit the dog and the dog continues to try to run toward them to defend their owner until they hit it again. And that was heartbreaking to watch. First of all, I love dogs. I love dogs so much. I'm no different than your average white person who's obsessed with dogs and dogs. But I also just hate seeing animals get hurt. I just hate seeing animals get hurt. So when I saw that, I was like, come on, bro, come on. You didn't have to hurt the dog. So anyway, but in all seriousness, I'm not opposed to any of the leaders of Hamas, whatever, being held for war crimes when it comes to taking hostages. But you can't hold them accountable for targeting military officials when you say it's okay for Israel to target military officials. No, you can't say that. You can't say that. That's not how it works. You can't go after them for targeting military officials because that's mostly who targeted was military officials. They obviously took hostages because they wanted to exchange them for the hostages that the Israeli regime is holding. Because no one ever talks about that. That's why Hamas took the hostages. They wanted to get their hostages back. The Israeli regime holds thousands of Palestinians hostage in jails for crimes they did not commit. They say, oh, they're terrorists, they're terrorists. No, they're not. They're like kids and moms that they're holding. They're political prisoners. Also, another thing that a lot of people don't want to acknowledge is that a lot of the civilians that were killed on October 7th were done so by the Israeli regime themselves. And we know that because Hamas didn't have Apache helicopters. Like, Hamas didn't have bombs capable of hurting the civilian damage that was done. Mohammed, yeah, I tend to agree with you. Yeah, or Hellfire missiles. They didn't have that. So, yeah, they implemented the Hannibal Directive. So, why should Hamas be accountable for war crimes and the Hannibal that the Israeli regime was carrying out? Like, it's under international law, it is considered a war crime to take hostages, right? So, if you were going to hold them accountable for that, but you don't get to, because you guys don't follow international law and you don't want to be held accountable. So why should Hamas be held accountable if you're not going to get held accountable? Like, you just want the double standard. They want the double standard. Also, if we really want to go down the road of self-defense, there could also be an argument made that what the resistance did on October 7th was self-defense. Because the Israeli regime loves to call everything and anything they do, all the war crimes they carry out and that they commit, they say, oh, well, it's self-defense. They say it's self-defense. Okay, so can't Hamas say the same thing? Why can't Hamas say October 7th was self-defense? Garam, I know that. It's horrible. Garam, I get it. It's just hard to watch, especially if you're an animal lover. But you're right. It happens in the US all the time too. I saw a horrific video of a police officer as they were trying to go after this random homeless guy. Like, they shot his dog. It was so horrible. Yeah, all I'm saying is that if they're going to do the war crime routine and they were going to try to hold them accountable for that, then they would go after Israel, which they're not actually doing. But also I would consider, for the most part, I mean, if you're going to hold a standard for war crimes, then you need to hold them for a standard across the board. But again, first of all, we have to keep in mind that a lot of what they claim that Hamas did on October 7th was totally made up. Like, it's just atrocity propaganda and hoaxes made up by them. But you could argue, and I do argue, that the resistance also has every right to defend themselves. If you're going to take hostages, well, then you can't get mad at them for taking hostages. And a lot of them were like targeted, the civilians, like at the concerts and stuff, by the Apache helicopters and the Hellfire missiles, and even some of the people at the kibbutzes, because in the Al Jazeera talking about October 7th, even talked about and examined how it was impossible for Hamas to have done the damage to the kibbutz houses that was done. It would have to have been done with military capabilities that Hamas did not have. So who did it? Also, another thing about October 7th that I think one of your things, international law, occupied people have. Yeah, that's a really good point too by Scurvy. Under international law, it is the right of an occupied people to resist. So it is the right of an occupied people to resist. So I don't know what they want me to tell you. Also, another thing that is super sus about this, and it kind of gets into what we're talking about with this article, is this whole article and investigation by The Guardian is talking about how it's talking about their capabilities, their intelligence, and how spy and all the information that they glean from people. So how come no one else thinks it's sus that they knew about it before it happened and didn't try to stop it? No one thinks that's sus? Yeah, that's true. No, you're right. It is, Garam, you're right about that. It is a step forward to see the ICC actually apply for those arrest warrants. I think it is a good step in the right direction. I think while we started getting off track and talking about October 7th, and why we started getting off track was because we were talking about how they always both sides everything. It's always both sides everything. Oh, we're going to seek an arrest warrant for Netanyahu, but also Hamas. Oh, Israel was, committing war crimes, but so is Hamas, and this and that. But Israel's doing this, but also the Palestinians. It's complicated, both sides. And like, honestly, like, as a human, on just like a human level, right? We're not talking about politics right now. As a human on a human level, do I think it's sad when people get killed? Of course. I think it's bad when anyone gets killed. But when we're talking about what happened on October 7th, not only was the Israeli regime responsible for that, responsible for the Apache helicopters and Hannibal directive, but responsible for not stopping it because they had the intelligence and they let it happen. But also, occupied people have a right to resist. And you cannot keep people in a concentration camp in an open air prison and think that they are not going to fight back and think that they're not going to resist. And not only do they have a right to resist under international law, it's, in my opinion, I understand why. And so two things can be true at once. I can say, like, yeah, lives were lost and that's sad, but I do not condemn them. I do not. Do you condemn Hamas? No. I want to know what happened for them to not do anything about it. Also, yeah, I don't even care about their own hostages, okay? They literally don't care about the hostages. I don't know. I just think all the information surrounding the lead up to October 7th is so sus. How do you live in a surveillance state like the Israeli regime and have the intelligence before it happened and have that type of Fort Knox security and have the capabilities and spyware that they have to where they were able to spy on the ICC, but you didn't do anything before 10/7? Make it make sense, because the math is not mathing there. All right, let's finish this. After the incident in New York, Cohen persisted contacting the prosecutor, turning up unannounced and subjecting her to unwanted calls. While initially amicable, the source said Cohen's behavior became increasingly threatening and intimidating. A close ally of Netanyahu at the time, Cohen was a veteran of Mossad's spy master and had gained a reputation within the service as a skilled recruiter of agents with experience cultivating high-level officials in foreign governments. Okay, so you had all that talent, supposedly, and you had all that, but you couldn't figure out October 7th, like before it happened? Sus. Accounts of his secret meetings with Bensouda paint a picture in which he sought to build a relationship with the prosecutor as he attempted to dissuade her from pursuing an investigation that, if it went ahead, could embroil senior Israeli officials. 3 sources briefed on Cohen's activities said that they understood the spy chief had tried to recruit Bensouda into complying with Israel's demands during the period in which she was waiting for a ruling from the pre-trial chamber. They said that he became more threatening after he began to realize that the prosecutor would not be persuaded to abandon the investigation. At one stage, Cohen is said to have made comments about Bensouda's security and a thinly veiled threat about the consequences of her career if she proceeded. Contacted by The Guardian, Cohen and Kabila did not respond to requests for comments, but Bensouda declined to comment. I mean, that's what's really disappointing. That's what's really disappointing about the whole thing. Yeah, that's true and more. It's like I understand on the one hand, like Bensouda, like it would be so scary to be in position, like she's being threatened by these thugs. But then it's also really that she gave into it. I wish she would have commented on this article. She was prosecutor. Bensouda formally disclosed her encounters with a small group within the ICC with the intention of putting it on record. Her belief that she had been personally threatened, sources familiar with the disclosure said. Yeah, because they did. Like, they straight up threatened her like mafia thugs. This was the only way Israel sought to place pressure on the prosecutor. This was not. Around the same time, the ICC officials discovered details of what is described as a diplomatic smear campaign relating into a close family member. That's amazing. They were trying everything. First, they tried to like swoon her. Then when that didn't work, they started threatening her life. Then they're like, let's do a smear campaign, which is why you should never believe anything that the Israeli regime says, because they are pros at smear campaigns. Believe anything the Israeli regime says, because they are the smear campaign. Like, they've mastered the smear campaign. They are pros at it. According to multiple sources, the Mossad had obtained a cache of material, including transcripts of an apparent sting operation against Bensouda's husband. The origins of the material and whether it was genuine remain unclear. However, Elements of the information were circulated by Isreal among Western diplomatic official sources said. In a failed attempt to discredit the chief prosecutor, a person briefed on the campaign said that it gained little traction among diplomats and amounted to a desperate attempt to besmirch Bensouda's reputation. Wow. It's amazing. It really is amazing. In March 2020, 3 months after Bensouda referred the Palestinian case to the pretrial chamber, an Israeli government delegation reportedly held discussions in Washington with senior U.S. officials about a joint Israeli-American struggle against the ICC. A struggle. Bro. One Israeli intelligence official said that they regarded Donald Trump's administration as more cooperative than that of his Democratic predecessor. The Israelis felt sufficiently comfortable to ask for information from U.S. intelligence about Bensouda, a request the source says would have been impossible during Barack Obama's tenure. Days before the meeting in Washington, Bensouda had received authorization from the ICC judges to pursue a separate investigation into the war crimes in Afghanistan committed by the Taliban and both Afghan and U.S. military personnel. Fearing U.S. armed forces would be prosecuted, the Trump administration was engaged in its own aggressive campaign against the ICC, culminating in the summer of 2020 with the imposition of the U.S. economic sanctions on Bensouda and one of her top officials. So basically, the criminal Israeli regime came together with the criminal U.S. regime and was like, hey, man, you don't want them to investigate our war criminals, do you? And then he was like, yeah, man, we don't want them to, do anything about our war criminals either. So, oh my gosh, ridiculous. And put economic sanctions on one of her top and her top officials. It's insane. That's insane. Bro, they're supposed to be, it's just amazing. The International Criminal Court is supposed to be holding criminals accountable. And instead of holding war criminals accountable, the U.S. and the Israeli regime are coming together to smear the ICC prosecutor, threaten the ICC prosecutor, and put sanctions on the ICC prosecutor to make sure that she doesn't do her job, the job of holding war criminals accountable. Like, her literal job is to investigate war crimes and war criminals and hold them accountable. And the two Western democracies, our two Western democracies are like, no. Let's put sanctions on her for job. Okay? Let's put sanctions on her for doing her job. Let's not let her look into war crimes committed by both America and by the Israeli regime. And in fact, let's not only smear her to make sure she doesn't do investigation, of which it's her job, let's put sanctions on her. Insanity. It's another reason why it really chaps my ass when people are like, I think Trump would be better than Biden. Okay, Biden is garbage, and Trump would be like garbage, like hot garbage on fire. Like, let's not pretend that just because Biden is trash means that Trump won't be even worse, which he will. Among ICC officials, the U.S.-led and visa restrictions on personnel were believed to relate as much to the Palestine as to the Afghanistan case. Two former ICC officials said senior Israeli officials had expressly indicated to them that Israel and the U.S. were working together. At a press conference in June of last year, senior Trump administration figures signaled that their intention to impose sanctions on ICC officials, announcing that they had received unspecified information about financial corruption and malfeasance at the highest levels of the office of the prosecutor. Sure, Jan. As well as referring to the Afghanistan case, Mike Pompeo, who's also a war criminal, Trump's Secretary of State linked the U.S. measures to the Palestine case. It's clear that the ICC is only putting Israel in its crosshairs for nakedly political purposes. What were the political purposes? What? Also, I love how every time Israel does something criminal, they always try to make themselves victims. They're targeting us. They're just putting us in their crosshairs. Why is the ICC targeting Israel? Why are they putting us in their crosshairs? Yeah. It's all projection. By saying engages in corrupt acts for personal benefit. No, that's you, boo. That's you, boo. That is you, boo. Literally in Bahama, like saying like, oh, they're engaging in it for political purposes and personal benefit. That's literally all of the Israeli regime. And that was literally all of the Trump administration. The Trump administration was so incredibly corrupt, including Mike Pompeo. Mike Pompeo is Zionist, okay? Mike Pompeo literally went to the Israeli regime and was like dancing with their criminals, okay? The U.S. has never publicly provided any information to substantiate its charge, and Joe Biden lifted the sanctions months after he entered the White House. Of course, they didn't provide evidence. Of course, they didn't provide any evidence. So they come out and say nakedly political purposes by putting Israel in their crosshairs, because Israel always has to be a victim. They always have to be a victim. They're the biggest fry bullies ever. And then says they're engaging in corrupt actions for her own personal benefit against Bensouda, providing zero evidence. And then it just kind of, so they provided zero evidence and then just kind of fell by the wayside once Biden got into office. But at the time, Bensouda faced increasing pressure from the apparently concerted effort behind the scenes by the powerful allies, as a Gambian did not enjoy the political protection that the other ICC colleagues from Western countries had by virtue of their citizenship. As a former ICC source said, this left her vulnerable and isolated, which is so messed up because she should have protection. She should have protection by virtue of her job. Like, that's crazy. When the pretrial chamber finally confirmed the ICC had jurisdiction in Palestine in February of 2021, some of the ICC even believed Bensouda should leave. The final decision to open a full investigation to her successor. On March 3rd, however, before the end of the 9-year term, Bensouda announced a full investigation in the Palestinian case, setting in motion a process that could lead to criminal charges, though she cautioned the next phase could take time. Any investigation undertaken by the office will be conducted independently, impartially, and objectively without fear or favor, she said. To both Palestinian and Israeli victims, affected communities, we urge patience. But, yeah, it's like, honestly, I kind of like, it sucks that she didn't pursue the investigations more, and did the both sides thing. But at the same time, like, I'm not going to lie, I kind of feel for her. Like, it's insane that she, from the, what is she supposed to do? Like, if she had done it, who knows what the U.S. or what the Israeli regime would have done to her? How is she supposed to these investigations without fear or favor when she has no diplomatic protection? It's just crazy. When Khan helmet the ICC prosecutor's office in June of 2021, he inherited an investigation he later said lies on the San Andreas fault of international strategic interest. As he took office, other investigations, including on the events of the Philippines, DRC, Afghanistan, and Bangladesh, competed for his attention. And in March, 22 days after Russia launched its invasion into Ukraine, he opened a high-profile investigation into alleged Russian war crimes. Oh, I told you guys that this stream was not going to be for the faint of heart, okay? I told you guys that this was going to be a dense article, and that it was going to take a while to go through. So stretching. It's going to take a minute to go through. Thank you again, everyone who has become members. To everyone again who has become members to my YouTube or my Ko-Fi and who has donated super chats or super thanks. In the Israeli government's initially, the politically sensitive not treated as a priority by the British prosecutor's team, familiar with the case, said. One said that it was in effect on a shelf, but Khan's office disputes this and said that it was established a dedicated investigative team to take the inquiry forward. In Israel, the government's top lawyer regarded Khan, who had previously defended warlords such as the former Liberian president Charles Taylor, as a more cautious prosecutor than Bensouda. One former senior Israeli official said that there were lots of respect for Khan. I like that threat. We got a lot of respect. We got a lot of respect for Khan. Genital yoga time. Yes, just a person. We got a lot of respect for Khan, unlike his predecessor. That's a threat. That's him being like, we got a lot of respect for you, so let's keep it that way, okay? Don't do anything out of line, you know what I'm saying? That's what that is. His appointment to the court was viewed as a reason for optimism, they said, but they added that the October 7th attack changed that reality. The Hamas assault on southern Israel, which Palestinian militants killed nearly 1,200 Israelis and kidnapped about 250, clearly involved brazen war crimes. Okay, one thing I'm going to point out that they always do, which is like they never do it when it comes to America or like Russia, is they never specify that, like, I think it was only like 700 were not soldiers. Like, we always separate soldiers. Like, if they're soldiers, we don't count them, right? Like, think about how when we're talking about Palestinian civilians getting killed by the regime, they always go, don't count Hamas, only count women and children, don't count Hamas. Okay, so then why are you saying 1,200 when at least 450 of them were soldiers? So too, in the view of many legal experts, has Israel's subsequent onslaught on Gaza, which is estimated has killed more than 35,000 people. It's way more than that. And brought the territory to the brink of famine through Israel's obstruction of humanitarian aid, which is also a war crime, by the way. By the end of the third week of Israelis' bombardment of Gaza, Khan was on the ground at the Rafah border crossing. He subsequently made visits to the West Bank and southern Israel, where he was invited to meet with survivors of the October 7th attack and the relatives of people who had been killed. In February of 2024, Khan issued a strongly worded statement. Oh my gosh. Whenever they say strongly worded statement, you know it's like absolutely useless. To Netanyahu's legal advisors, interpreted as an ominous sign. In the post on X, he in effect warned Israel against launching an assault on Rafah, Gaza's southernmost city, where more than 1 million displaced people were time. I'm deeply concerned by the reported bombardment and potential ground incursion by Israeli forces in Rafah, he wrote. Those who do not comply with the law should not complain later when my office takes action. See, and then he's warning them and 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 warning them. Guys, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't go into Rafah, giving them all these chances. But why did they go into Rafah anyway? Because they don't expect any consequences, because they never get held accountable for anything. So they don't get held accountable for anything. So why should they be afraid to go in? Yeah, there's a lot of unanswered questions. All worlds a stage. Yeah, Biden crossed his own red line. And they keep warning him, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And then they do it and nothing happens. And again, they keep doing it because they know that there aren't going to be any consequences for it. The comments stirred alarm within the Israeli regime's government as they appeared to deviate from his previous statements about the war, which officials had viewed as a reassuringly cautious. That tweet surprised us a lot, a senior official said. Concerns in Israel over Khan's intentions escalated last month when the government briefed the media that it believed the prosecutor was contemplating arrest warrants against Netanyahu and other senior officials such as Yoav Gallant. Israel intelligence had, how come Ben-Gvir isn't on that list? You know what I mean? Like, Ben-Gvir should be on that list. He's like an actual terrorist, like literally terrorist. The subject of the ICC, Israeli intelligence had intercepted emails, attachments, and text messages from Khan and other officials in his office. The subject of the ICC climbed the ladder of the priorities for the Israeli intelligence. So they're still doing it, still intercepting the prosecutors' stuff, calls, emails. How? How is this allowed? How is this happening? One intelligence source said. It was via intercepted communications that Israel established that Khan was at one stage considering entering Gaza through Egypt and wanted urgent assistance doing so without Israel's permission. Another Israeli intelligence assessment circulated widely in the intelligence community drew on surveillance of a call between two Palestinian politicians. One of them said Khan had indicated a request for an arrest warrant of Israeli leaders could be imminent, had indicated that arrest warrants could be imminent, but warned he was under tremendous pressure from the United States. Wow, that's so dark. That's so dark. So they're spying on his shit and like no consequences for spying on his shit, right? And then like he's like, I really want to put these arrest warrants out, but I'm under pressure by the US, who is their protection racket. It was against this backdrop that Netanyahu made a series of public statements warning a arrest warrant could be imminent. He called on the leaders of the free world to stand firmly against the ICC and use all the means at their disposal to stop this move. I just love that he's like leaders of the free world, like the gaslighting of saying that this is somehow democratic. You're not free. This is not a free world. If this was a free democratic world, a free world where the rule of law prevailed and democratic order prevailed, you would be in jail already. You would be in jail already. He added, branding Israel's leaders and soldiers as war criminals will pour jet fuel on the fires of anti-Semitism. You got that, guys? Holding him accountable for being a war criminal is actually anti-Semitism. In Washington, a group of senior U.S. Republican senators had already sent a threatening letter to Khan with a clear warning, target Israel and we will target you, which again, absolutely psychotic, deranged, mafia behavior. The ICC, meanwhile, had strengthened its security with, and by the way, they do that because, again, they're bought and paid for by the Israeli regime. So the Israeli regime pays all the money to our corrupt Congress members, and then we protect them. It's like we're like their security guards, you know? They're on the payroll. The ICC, meanwhile, has strengthened its security with regular sweeps of the prosecutor's office, security checks on devices, phones, free areas, weekly threat assessments, and the introduction of specialist equipment, which is insane. They shouldn't have to do that. So crazy. Like, that is so crazy. The ICC, you guys, the International Criminal Court, should not have to strengthen its security with regular sweeps of the prosecutor's office, security checks on devices and phones. For what? Because they're afraid that the Israeli regime is spying on them, because they are. Like, how is that? You're having to put all this stuff on your phone and on your security so that the psychotic regime isn't spying? Or to try to stop them from spying? It's just so insane. This is so insane. Several forms of threat and communications that could be viewed as attempts to unduly influence its activities. Again, this is why it's a joke when the United States says that we care about the rule of law. LOL. Rule of law and international order. Seriously? I never want to hear that again. I never want to hear that again. Oh, the U.S. cares so much about the rule of law and international order and democracy. Really? Then why are you thugs protecting the thugs over at the Israeli regime while they threaten and spy on the International Criminal Court? Like, please. Khan recently disclosed in an interview with CNN that some elected leaders had been very blunt with him as he prepared to issue these arrest warrants. This court is built for Africa and for thugs like Putin, is what the senior leader told me. So then don't call it, so then we can't call it the International Criminal Court then. I like how they just said the quiet part out loud. Listen, man, the International Criminal Court was just a facade, okay? It was just window dressing. No, in fact, not window dressing. We created this so you could go after Putin and Africa. Like, that's who it's for. It's not for anybody else. It's not for us. Like, I just like that this facade has been lifted. And we shouldn't call it the International Criminal Court anymore. We should call it like the Court for Africa and Putin. That's what it should be called. The semi-national or Court of African and Vladimir Putin and Russian justice, something. Because, again, this guy's laying the quiet part out loud. He's like, no. I know we call it the International Criminal Court, that this is supposed to hold people accountable for international war crimes, that we believe in the rule of law and the world-based order, but rules-based order for the world, but we really don't, okay? We really don't. Not for the Western countries. No. Oh my gosh. Despite the pressure, Khan, like his predecessor in the prosecutor's office, if this were a movie, I feel like people wouldn't believe it. Like, literally, I feel like people wouldn't believe it. Despite the pressure, Khan, like his predecessor in the prosecutor's office, chose to press ahead. Last week, Khan announced that he was seeking arrest warrants for the Netanyahu and Gallant alongside 3 Hamas leaders for war crimes and crimes against humanity. He said Israel's prime minister and defense minister stood accused of responsibility for extermination, starvation, and the denial of humanitarian relief supplies and deliberate targeting of civilians. Standing at a lectern with 2 of his top prosecutors, one American, the other British at his side, Khan said that he had repeatedly told Israel to take urgent action to comply with humanitarian law. I specifically underlined that starvation is a method of war and the denial of humanitarian relief constitutes the Rome Statute offense. I could not have been clearer, he said, as I also repeatedly underlined in my public statements, those who do not comply with the law should not complain later when my office takes action. That day has come. And they didn't think he would because just a person, what's the word count on this article? Oh, I don't know. How do you find out? Like, what's a quick way to find out? Yeah, because why? And again, they didn't take him seriously when he said he was going to do something about it because they never get held accountable. They never get held accountable. So why should they take him seriously? You know who no one's ever going to take seriously again? The State Department. Because you sit there and watch John Kirby be like, oh, Ukraine, Ukraine. Gaza? What genocide? It's like so ridiculous. Oh, that's the end of the article. Wow. That was a lot. That was a lot. Yeah. A lot. That was insane. But they don't think this is why the rest of the world hates us. Yeah. And also, what other country gets warnings like, Like this guy's letting them know, hey, listen, guys, I warned you over and over and over again. Stop starving people. Stop letting your demons block humanitarian aid at the crossing. Stop trying to use food as a weapon of starvation. Like warning after warning after warning after they go and do it anyway. And the reason why, like how many countries get warnings like, hey man, they're like talking to them like they're like children. Like you get 3 warnings, okay? You get 3. And if you do the 3rd time, we're finally going to hold you accountable if you do. Like how many people get those warnings? Again, the reason why the Israeli regime keeps moving forward with war crimes is because they never expect to be held accountable. Look at Khan and they're like, I don't care if you tell us not to commit war crimes. We're going to do it anyway because we never get held accountable for shit. We never get held accountable for shit. And if someone tries to hold us accountable, we'll get our daddy over at the U.S. to protect us, our bodyguards over at the U.S. to protect us. Yeah. And then they're like, why do people hate us? Why do people hate us? They hate us because they hate us. Like, then they say, oh, well, they just hate us. Iran hates us because of our freedoms. That's why they hate us. No, they hate us because of shit like this. And that's why I always say to all Americans, understand how dangerous this kind of impunity is for you. Because you're a fool if you don't. Eventually, there might be another attack on American soil. And all the people that are in positions of power will not be the ones to suffer those consequences. It will likely be civilians. Mike Pompeo, Biden, John Kirby, none of them are going to pay for that. It would likely be civilians. It's so insane. It really is. I actually do kind of wonder how long that article was, like the word count, but I don't know how to check the word count on an article. It's just, I never want to hear, oh, international law, rules-based order, they hate us because of our freedoms ever again. And none of this is for us, by the way. Like, I feel like there's this like holdover that like Americans think that like they're doing this somewhat to protect us or for us. Nah, they don't care about their own citizens. Not at all. Not at all. They do not care about their own citizens one bit. They care about money, filling their pockets, corporations, care about selling shit, care about American citizens. Thank you, Amor. Yeah. Last time I went live was on Monday, and some of you guys told me that Monday was not a good day because Bad Hezbollah goes live on Monday. So what are, for those of you who are still here, what is a good day for lives? Because I was trying to do Monday and Thursday, but some people said Monday wasn't good. Unless I do it late or earlier. I wish I could do it every day, old bony bird. I wish I could do it every day. I mean, maybe it'll come to a point where I can, but maybe eventually I can do it full time. I would like to be able to eventually stream every day, like Monday through Friday. I just haven't been able to do that yet, but one day. I don't make enough money right now for to do that. Thank you, just a person. Yeah, that's true. I could always do it Monday, like a little bit later too. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But thank you guys for doing this with me. I thought it was a really, really important article for us to go through because I think some, there are still people, there are a lot of people that don't know. And even if we know, I think it's good to read and to remind ourselves of this. You can't fight propaganda if you don't have the facts. Yeah. I mean, the super chats. Oh, no, Mohammed. It's not just that. It's that eventually I'll still be able to, but like YouTube, even when I post videos, it's still like the platform itself doesn't pay very much. That's what I want to get to. I want to get to the point make money on the platform, but I don't think you make money off the lives. Like if you're live, you only can make money if somebody sends you a super chat or something. I'll get there. I'm still new, I'm still new at this. You guys are my like base. Like anyone here who's been like following me the last couple months that are like in my community, you guys are like my base supporters because I'm still new. Oh yeah, totally. Amora, I see what you're saying, and I do consume so much news, but that's why we also make jokes here. You have to laugh so that you don't cry all the time. Yeah, Germ, I think they're about that, and it can help with that. I agree. But I'm still new, so for now, I'm going to try to do Mondays and Thursdays. Yes, I'm a baby tuber. Yeah, so, but we'll get there. I mean, you guys are with me, and this is like the very beginning. You guys are like my base. Yeah. Parthied? I don't know. Ask him. Listen, you ask him where the apartheid is. Gonna conflict with anyone, so stream when it's good for you. No, that actually is true. That is true. It's gonna be a conflict for any time, so but I will be streaming next Monday. Thank you guys for joining me. Yeah, I know parodies usually do well if they don't get taken down, okay? But my parodies get taken down a lot. They get targeted especially by Instagram and by TikTok, or they'll get demonetized here. Like that happened when I made my last parody about the parody that I made making fun of the look at my woman. They demonetized that. So oh, that's a good old bony bird. I should put them on Discord. It's a good idea. But also, I mean, you could also share them from my that's not a bad idea, the ones that they take down. Yeah. So yeah, if you haven't, and also anybody if they can, if they want to, I have all my links in my bio. Like I have a Venmo if anybody wants to donate to me there. People can send super chats, and you can become a member here on YouTube or on Ko-Fi, which Ko-Fi might be a little safer, or you can buy merch. Okay. But you're right. Join the Discord. If you're not already in my Discord, it's in the like description of my channel. And I think I'll start uploading those videos. But yeah, I'm going to get going. I just want to say thank you guys again. Thank you everyone who donated super chats. Thank you also for your comments, because I love you guys. You guys are funny and you make me laugh. And you help me get through this insanity. Because as I just said to Amor a few minutes ago, I would cry if I wasn't on so many medications, but also I would cry if I did not laugh. So thank you guys for helping me laugh through this insanity. And I love you guys. And I will see you for now. I'm going to say Monday is Monday at 3 good? How's Monday at 3? Bye, Coronado. Don't forget to practice your genital yoga, guys. Hey, JT, as soon as I post this live, the whole thing will be on YouTube and you can watch it. First, when you were making fun of All right, guys, I think Monday at 3. I think. I'll find out what time Bad Hasbara is on, and then I'll try to do it around it. All right, everybody. I love you guys. As always, free Palestine, and I will see you on Monday.